Hello, and welcome to Jim Hitt Motivate. I'm your host, Jim Hitt, and this is the first episode of a new podcast called Find Your Second Wind, where we talk about weight loss, lifestyle change, and the plan that God has for your life. So, who am I? Obviously, you know my name is Jim Hitt. Well, what do I do? I am a motivational speaker and inspirational speaker. I speak on weight loss, lifestyle change, and the plan that God has for your life. So I thought the best way just to start this off is just to tell my story. And so that's what I'm going to do today. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we're going to get into it. You have heard probably many times your entire life that life is a marathon and not a race. I don't believe that at all. Life is neither a marathon nor a race. Life is many races over time. And so the reason I say that is because during life, we go through different stages of our life. And that's not one long race. One long race is one thing. And so it's many different races. Well, for me, one of the difficult races that I had to endure has been my weight. I have been overweight my entire adult life. Every day, I seemed to get bigger and bigger, and there was no end in sight. And so, I accepted it. And it was tough, but I honestly did not see or feel that there was a way I was going to change. And so I just started living with it, finding coping ways just to deal with it that never worked. When I was 3 years old, only thing I wanted to be a G.I. Joe. Y'all remember G.I. Joe? I know y'all do. If y'all are my age, 37. I really am 37. I know y'all remember G.I. Joe. That's all I wanted to be. I remember waking up on Saturday morning watching cartoons at early in the morning. That's the one I look forward to the most. And I didn't just watch it. I lived it. I played G.I. Joe. I had multiple Army Men set. I had Army Men clothes. My dad's best friend, Uncle David, he was in the Air Force, so he would bring me BDUs, was a battle dress uniform. It was the camouflage uniform that they wore in the 80s and the 90s. And he gave me, I was the only kid in our neighborhood, not just my block, but our neighborhood, that had a real Kevlar Army helmet. Well, in this case, it was the Air Force helmet, but it was the same thing. And I played Army Men every day, more or less. And always out in the backyard playing, or in the woods behind the house playing. And I'd find a stick and turn it into a gun, or I had a toy gun. But I mean, that's what I did every single day. Excuse me. And that's all I wanted to be. Of course, as I got older, that turned into wanting to go into the military as I matured. And then it was that way during middle school, even into high school. In high school, I was in this program called ROTC program, which is a young junior military cadet for training for military. And I was very active. I was in ROTC all 4 years. And so, most kids, they wanted to be, today, they wanted to be a G.I. Joe. Tomorrow, they wanted to be a rock star or a archaeologist or a forest ranger or what have you. Yeah, I wanted to be those. But number one was always I wanted to be a G.I. Joe. I always wanted to go into the military. And I finally had that opportunity my junior year to go in and serve for the military. For my military, for my nation. We were attacked by terrorists on September 11th, 2001. And I was pissed. I'm not afraid to say it. I was mad. And so the plan was I was going to go, after my junior year, I was going to go to basic, during the summer, come back, finish my senior year, and then go active duty. That was the plan. Excuse me. Anybody listening, when I say excuse me, I'm usually drinking a cup of coffee. But that was my plan. And so I remember several cadets in ROTC in high school after 9/11, they went and signed up. I went and signed up. At 17, of course, I had to have parental permission to join. And so I went down, I signed up, got everything ready, and I was told, I got the most devastating news. And that was because I had been pre-diagnosed with an eye problem called optic nerve hypoplasia. I was never going to be able to go into any branch of the military. And that devastated me. I can't think of another word besides just devastate. My world came crashing down. I had been ready for one thing. My entire life, all 17 years of my young life, I've been planning on one thing, and that was going into the military. And now it was pulled out from underneath me like a rug. And I realized I didn't have a plan. Most kids my age were applying, this is a junior year, were applying to colleges or seeking out universities and colleges. They knew what they wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't have a plan anymore. And I realized I was starting from scratch. And so depression set in. I was so... Not only was I so depressed, I was ashamed of myself. Here, when my country needed me most, and this is how I really felt, when my country needed me most, because of a silly diagnosis that later on in life, in fact, I found that I was misdiagnosed with, unfortunately. But because of that, I couldn't go in. And so I was so ashamed of myself that other kids my age, other people in the country were serving their country, and I had to watch from the sidelines. And that was devastating. So I decided I cannot live like this, knowing that we're going to go and defend our country, and I can't be a part of it. So I didn't want to be a part of anything. And so I decided I was going to end my life. I had several suicide attempts. One in particular time, I tried to hang myself. I had a few suicide attempts, but I tried to hang myself and got up in a tree out in the woods by the house, and before I could even get a rope tied around a branch, I fell out of the tree and laid there and realized I can't even kill myself the way that I want to. I realized I had power over nothing. And so I just stopped living. Nothing was important to me. School wasn't important. The only thing I had was church, and Wednesday night youth group was fun, but I didn't care. And I just went into a deep depression. Like, well, killing myself's not an option. I'm no good at that. And it's like, well, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do in my life. And so I talked to a counselor at school, and you should go to culinary school, become a chef. What the heck is culinary school? And I'm not going to go to culinary school. So after graduation, I ended up going to culinary school. And I was going to become a chef. I was going to change the world of cooking. I hated it. I still hate cooking as a job. I love cooking. Don't get me wrong. I love being creative, In the kitchen, and what's more is I'm good at it. I'm really good at it. But as a job, I hated it. But it's what I had to do. And the one comfort I found in my depression was food. And like I said, what's more was cooking it. I was good at it. Maybe a little too good. I ate more than anybody that I knew. My legs became tree trunks, quite literally. My mom used to comment on that. I got bigger and bigger. Every day I seemed to literally get bigger. And like I said, there was no end in sight, so I accepted it. And during that time of eating that food, all my cares went away. I didn't care about anything else. It was literally a drug. It was a high that I used to forget about pain, about life. But the fact that I hated my life, and I felt like nobody loved me, nobody cared for me. In reality, I mean, I had best cheerleaders in the world, my parents and my siblings, my pastor. But I was blinded by my depression. Honestly. And it was nothing for me to go to Pizza Hut. And I would order two large pizzas. And I would tell them, don't cut them up. And I'd take them home, and I would roll them up like a burrito, and I would eat them. And I would feel so bad about that later on I'd eat ice cream like it was going out of style. And I would do that sometimes a couple times a week. And so it was nothing for me to do that. Or I'd eat a pound of bacon and a dozen eggs. And then with that, like, people see you doing that. Well, I would hide the evidence. I'd take the pizza boxes and take them out to the garbage and lift bags up, put them down there, and then set stuff on top, thinking I'm hiding the evidence. When in reality, the evidence was on my body. I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I was hiding nothing from anyone except for myself. And I didn't see it. Nor did I really care. Because it was discomfort. But I decided later on in life that, I'm going to become a pastor. And so I moved to Bumsville, North Dakota. I went to a Bible college because I had a aunt up there. Aunt, whatever you want to call it. I had family up in North Dakota. Up in North Dakota. And I said, I love that area up there. I didn't have a clue. I'm a Florida boy. I was raised in Central Florida, a little town. I call it a little town called Ocala. And I moved from there and got in my car, didn't tell nobody anything, and I took off. And I went to college up there. And I didn't move because I had family up there. I wanted to become a pastor. I felt called into the ministry. I'm like, well, maybe this is going to be what it's going to take to have purpose in my life. And I learned very quickly I didn't like it at the university. Not that there was anything bad with the college. I didn't like it. Not that the college was bad. The college and I did not see eye to eye on our beliefs, and I mean that's okay. So I ended up I got married, and so I mean that was an upside. I left the college and I moved, and I pastored a small church in South Dakota, and I really thought things were looking up, but I still had this addiction to food that would not go away. It had gotten out of hand, and I didn't have family from back home to monitor and tell me, you gotta stop doing this. And I had new family up here. Well, they didn't know how serious it was. And I was a pro at hiding it from other people. And so But like I said, still in reality, I just, I wasn't hiding it from anybody. As I got bigger and bigger, and I finally got to the point to where I could not stand up behind the pulpit long enough to preach, and without needing to sit down. And so I decided, I said, I can't do this anymore. So I came up with some excuse on why I had to leave the church, and I did. And so I realized then that I was a failure. I felt I was the very definition of a failure. I failed at everything. Up to that point in my life, I had failed at everything in my life, whether it's weight loss, or trying to change my life, or trying to better myself. This is what I ended up getting up to. I'm going to show you some pictures here. But, but that was me. And I went from this size, this kid in high school. I mean, I wasn't overly skinny. I was a muscular kid. I was a stout boy. But how do you go from that all the way to this? And so I had failed at everything. And so I really felt I was the very definition of a failure. And the thought of that, actually saying it out loud to myself, made things worse for me. So the eating got worse. I got bigger and bigger. So I was at a doctor's office, and I said, "Doc, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what to do." You would have thought that the breaking point was when this is even hard to talk about. I speak about it at Disney one time, before I even moved to North Dakota. I wasn't even that big yet. I was working at this camp, a summer camp. I was a cook, and the staff, during the weekend when we didn't have kids, we would have fun stuff. Well, we went to Disney, and I felt really bad because I kind of abandoned everybody. Well, I thought that it might be a problem on one of the rides, and so I just said, I'm just going to go by myself, because I didn't want to have to I didn't want people I knew seeing me in this shape, having problems walking around. Well, at one of the rides, my worst fear came true, and waited in line for probably an hour and a half just to get up there, and I did not fit. But not only did I not fit, the Disney workers were pushing this bar down on this ride as hard as I could, and I can't even sit all the way into the seat. And I made the biggest mistake, and I looked over at the crowds waiting in line, and all I saw was this. We didn't have smartphones then, I don't think. Maybe we did, but I just see people out with their phones laughing or commenting, going, and that was devastating. You would also thought that the other breaking point was when the Big and Tall store, this is years later after this Disney incident, but with the Big and Tall store where I could shop, did not even have clothes in the store big enough for me to fit in. They had to special order my clothes. I wore over an 8X shirt, over an 8X. I wore a pants over 80 inches. In high school, I was like 36. And so I got huge. and my pants were still snug on me. And so they really did not make clothes big enough in the big man store that they regularly carried big enough to fit me comfortably. So I wore sweatpants a lot. I got some dress pants. Had a special order of those. I remember just how expensive they were. And I mean, at this point, I couldn't walk very far. I could maybe walk 50 feet without falling. And so you would have also thought that the other breaking point was all the comments, the stares, walking down the hall somewhere, having people walk all the way around you because they think as if they think your obesity is contagious or something. And that's what I always felt. I felt like I was a subhuman. Of course, in anybody who has been in my shoes, whether you'll admit it or not, I feel like you understand where I'm coming from. Most people, I don't want to say all, but I feel like most know the feeling I'm talking about. To walk through a door and nobody wants to hold the door for you because they don't think that you're going to be able to get into the door without running into them. Or they don't want to get away from you as quickly as they can because you're different. You're big. They don't know what to do with it. Or it was disgusting. And so you would have thought that would... To them it was. It was disgusting. So you would have thought that was another breaking point. You especially would have thought that the major breaking point was when I hit over 600 pounds. But it wasn't. I was just waiting to die. And like I said, I saw no end in sight. And so at the doctor's office, defeated, I said, "Doc, what are my options here?" And the doctor looked at me, and I will never forget. He said 6 simple words. "You have 6 months to live." I was over 650 pounds. Anytime I went anywhere, I had to be in a wheelchair, one of those marked carts like you see at Walmart. And I couldn't be in those very long because I was so heavy that the battery didn't last very long because I was so heavy. I fell regularly. Now, I mean, I managed to get up and get to the refrigerator no problem. Let me tell you. That was a short walk. I had trouble bathing myself. I'm going to get personal here. I had trouble going to the bathroom by myself. I couldn't. I could not go to the bathroom without help. Can you imagine? And it was my fault. I feel like this is your fault. No one did this to you but you. I had heard that for years. No one's done this to you except for yourself. So you've got to get yourself out of this. And so it was always, it's your fault. You've done this to yourself. Well, that just added to the pressure and to the anger I had toward myself and the depression. And so, sitting there in the doctor's office, I said, "Doc, what? 6 months to live? You got to be kidding me." And I ask God every single day, "God, if this is all you have for me in this life, just bring me home, because I didn't want this life anymore." I ask God every day, "My God, if this is all you have, just bring me home." And I would wake up a lot of times upset. It's like, God, I'm still alive. I'm in pain. But when the doctor said, "You have 6 months to live," I said, "Okay, God, I changed my mind. I don't want to die no more." So when I was literally faced with death, I wanted to die. There's no doubt about it. I wanted to die. I didn't want to live anymore. But when I was given that opportunity for death, when I was actually faced with it, this is coming, You have a date here. You got 6 months. I realized I didn't really want to die. I just wanted the pain to go away. I said, Doc, what do I do? He said, your only chance for survival at this point is bariatric surgery, aka weight loss surgery, gastric bypass surgery. And he more or less said, and you're a risk. He said, I cannot promise you that you're going to wake up from anesthesia. He said, you're very unhealthy. The only thing I had that was healthy enough was my heart, and my heart was beginning to suffocate. Because that fat, body fat's not just on the outside of your body. It's pushing in everything. I had broken ribs. Literally broke my ankle just standing up. Just standing up. Broke my ankle because of my weight. I had broken ribs, like I said. So my heart was being suffocated. It was working itself to death. And so coming out of anesthesia was going to be tough. And he said, you got to make this decision, though. He said, if you don't have the surgery, you are going to die, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you do have the surgery, there's a chance. More or less said, there's a slim chance, but I said, okay, Doc, I'm okay dying on the operating table, knowing at that point that at least I did something, at least I was trying to do something about it. I said, let's do it. So my family came up for my surgery, and they went with me to the hospital in the morning. Pastor came up. I had my whole family there with me. And we said our goodbyes. Because we didn't know. I remember my mom and dad. Everything's okay. You're going to be fine. Of course your parents are going to say that, but I feel like in the back of their mind, they knew they knew that me not coming out was a very big possibility. And so, but I went in for surgery, and I woke up, and the doctor told me later on, it took you hours to come out of anesthesia after you should have. Several more hours. And he said, I started getting a little worried. And just the thought of the doctor having to go out and tell my family, your son's not going to make it, terrified me. Not so much terrified me, but not as much as it terrified for especially my mother to have to go through that to hear. Because no parent should have to bury their child. Excuse me. But my apologies. No parent should have to bury their child, so the thought of that just terrified me. But, everything came out okay. I woke up from the surgery, and the doctor said, you're going to, I think you'll probably lose 75 to 100 pounds to get death off the table. And so I said, okay, let's do that. Let's get death off this table. And I hit the first 100 pounds, and I kept going. I hit the next 100 pounds, and I kept going. Started going down to the local YMCA, started swimming every day. Started walking. Got to the point where I could walk around the block. I got to the point where I could start jogging short little distances. And pretty soon, I had lost 400 pounds. And to go from this here, where I was at, to this, again, Now, hindsight, I've lost well over 400 pounds at this point. I'm in the best shape of my adult life. And so I can no longer say that my entire adult life I just got bigger and bigger and bigger, because I did to a certain point, but then I got smaller and smaller and smaller, and I'm still losing weight. And it was then that I realized, I started listening to what I was preaching for so long. When I was behind the pulpit, if you remember Jeremiah 29:11 states that, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for a purpose for you, and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Folks, I want to tell you that God has a plan for you. And that plan is for you to follow Him, do what He says, live the way the Word says, and everything's going to come out okay at the end. You may go through a bunch of garbage, as I have, but it's not like, oh, well, when I focused on God, everything got better. A lot of times when you focus on God, things get worse, because He says, okay, now that you're focused on me, I'm going to let you go through this. He says, but I got you. And so I always think about Peter. I can be very flamboyant. I'm a loudmouth. So I kind of compare myself to Peter a little bit about on that side of things. I'm not as godly as he was by any stretch of the imagination. But when the disciples were out in the fishing boat and Christ came walking out to him, of course, Peter's the first one that goes, "Oh, Lord!" He jumps out and starts walking out to him. And then when he took his eyes off of him, that's when he started sinking. And so I feel like now, on hindsight, looking back, as long as you have your eyes fixed on Christ, you're going through a world of hurt. I get it. There's a bunch of junk going on around you. But as long as you have your eyes focused on Him, you're going to get through this. You're going to go through valleys and lows and highs and mountaintops. But you're going to get through this. And that's what I have come to realize. And so that's my story thus far. My story's not done yet, though. I mean, I still got more weight to lose. In fact, this coming June, I'm having skin remover surgery. And they're going to remove a lot of skin. I mean, I got so much skin. Let's get out of the way of the microphone. I got skin like you wouldn't believe. It's like a face-off. But I've got a crazy amount of skin that's got to come off. And of course, that's plastic surgery. And so my insurance company just okayed for them to do this surgery. But I got to have 2 or 3 more surgeries after that. I mean, because they're just going to cover just the stomach area. Everything else has got to be out of my own pocket. Which, I mean, I'll deal with that when I come to it. But I'm here. I'm alive. I've lost this weight. It was as big as I was. It was a race against time. It was a race against my future. It was a race against my right to live, my very right of existence. And I knew it was going to be a hard race. I knew it was going to be a long race. But so I ran cross country in high school. And one thing that Coach T always said was, when you're towards the end of that race and you feel like you can't go any further, you've got to find that second wind and win your race. So I knew it was going to be a hard race. I knew it was going to be a long race. But I said, you know what? As hard as this is, I'm keeping my nose to the grind. I found my second wind and I won my race. And now I'm on to the next one. And I would love for you to come on this journey with me, on this next race, this next chapter of my life. And so I want to thank you so much for tuning in. for this. I hope you have gotten something out of it. I'm going to have a lot more episodes and podcasts here. I'm going to have other people on to tell their story, whether they had surgery, weight loss surgery, or if they've just lost a lot of weight, or if they're at the beginning of the stages of weight loss, of their journey of lifestyle change. I'd love to have a doctor on. So if anybody out there knows a surgeon that is in the weight loss world, tell them to come my way, because I would love to interview you on here. And so the ways that you can reach out to me, I would love for you to. If you have any questions, if you need help or need some encouragement, or you'd just like for me to pray with you, you can always email me at jimhitmotivate@gmail.com. And that's Jim Hit. Hit is spelled Hitt. So Hotel Igloo Tango Tango. jimhitmotivate at gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on my Facebook account. I have a business page, which is Jim Hit Motivate. You can leave a message here in the comments. Say, hey, I need some prayer for this. Be thinking about this. Or, hey, how can I get a hold of you? And so we will get connected and we will talk. Pretty soon I'm going to have some t-shirts for sale, maybe a hat. But I'm excited about this. I would love to see where God takes this. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love you. God loves you more than I love you. And I want you to always remember that the only way to the Father is through Christ. And Christ loves you, and he wants to have a personal relationship with you. The creator of the universe, the creator of the cosmos, that created you, that has numbered each hair on your head, that God, the only God, he wants to have a personal relationship with you. And that's just awesome. And so I love you, God loves you, and you have a wonderful day. God bless.